Hello and welcome to the Mummy Movie Podcast, where in this episode we shall be looking at Plan 9 from Outer Space from 1959. This film doesn't actually have anything to do with Egypt, it's just a film I wanted to do the episode on. I actually have a guest for this episode, so I will not be a lonely man. So my guest is Ollie Reason, and the main reason I picked him is because he literally knows nothing about this film.
Yeah, I know literally nothing about this whatsoever. So Pete kind of dragged me onto this to provide a second voice onto something that is meant to be one of the worst things ever invented by a human being.
Yeah, the moniker "so bad that it's good" is usually applied for this film.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so layout-wise, unsurprisingly, we're not going to have a historical accuracy section because there's no point.
Oh, that's a shame. I'm pretty sure there would be some accuracies in there.
So essentially, this is just going to be like a review / discussion on the film.
Yeah.
So, right, let's get started. You are a pilot. One day, you are flying through the sky when there is a flash of light outside the window. You see a flying saucer. When you land, you are sworn to secrecy by the US government. But little do you know that you will be experiencing these saucers again as they raise the dead from the local graveyard and enact Plan 9 from Outer Space.
So that's the opening line of the film, isn't it?
Yeah.
And after watching it, he basically described the entire plot of the film in the first, 1 minute.
Pretty much, and then you just watch it through.
And then, you basically watch that whole sentence as a film.
Yeah, while he narrates every single point after you've just seen it.
Yeah.
Like the bit at the beginning of the film where they have the graveyard.
Yeah.
And then they leave the graveyard and he goes, "The mourners left the graveyard."
It's like he's like a narrator on a children's book, isn't he? Like everything has to be described in specific detail.
Do you know what's...
which we will follow.
Do you know what's quite good about him though? There's quite a few good facts about him. He's a man named Criswell.
Criswell, okay.
And basically, he wrote all of his lines for this film because he said all of Ed Wood's lines were boring.
Okay.
But he was actually a psychic in real life who was famed for getting all of his predictions wrong.
Well, brilliant.
So, okay, first of all, this is a prediction he technically gets right.
Okay, yeah.
He claimed that he didn't speak until the age of 4. And then on one stormy afternoon, he made his first prediction. You want to guess what it is?
That he spoke?
No, pretty close. The rain will stop.
My goodness. I tell you what, this man is an enigma.
I know.
How are we functioning as a society about people leading us forward?
Later on, when his career was very much on the go, he claimed that Colorado would be hit from rays from outer space that would cause metal to be as rubber and cause terrible accidents in amusement parks.
That seems oddly specific.
Well,
Specific to amusement parks.
I mean, if it did happen, I guess. And then, of course, because all psychics have to have an end of the world one, because you're not a psychic if you don't, surely. He predicted that the world would end in 1999 and believed there would be mass cannibalism. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen.
I need fingers crossed. Oh my goodness, that's coming around any minute now. It's kind of looking back. I can at least tell my children, guys, I survived the cannibal apocalypse of 1999.
Yeah. Another interesting fact about him is he used to sleep in a coffin. Just throw that in.
Tell you what, he's the perfect casting for this movie. Considering the other people that star in this, he genuinely is like the absolute perfect person to front it. And additionally as well, I'm pretty sure everything he says after that initial sentence makes absolutely no sense in any shape or form.
You mean like, "Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where we shall spend the rest of our lives."
Absolutely wonderful. Genuinely amazing.
Yeah.
It should be a poet.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the first proper scene of this film, we see a funeral with a group of mourners around the grave.
Yep.
And we see an actor who's called Bela Lugosi, who was actually the original Dracula from 1932, I believe it is. And the idea is his wife has just died.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout this, you have Criswell's monologue going on over the top of it, which is completely not needed.
More than this.
And then immediately after that scene, we see Bela Lugosi standing in supposedly his garden. It was actually the garden of Tor Johnson, who's one of the other actors in the film.
Oh, is he the Swedish guy?
Yeah. Did you know that Tor Johnson was originally a professional wrestler?
Oh, that's okay. That doesn't surprise.
So he started a grand tradition of amazing professional wrestler actors.
So he is the forebearer to people like The Rock.
He is,
Actor of all time.
yes, absolutely.
He's the inspiration for him and Dave Bautista and John Cena.
Without
Acting careers.
without him, we do not have the Scorpion King.
Yeah, yeah. That's if we didn't have the Scorpion King, you wouldn't have a current podcast, would you?
Do you know one thing I liked about him? Right, his ring name was the Super Swedish Angel.
Yes.
Do you know why he was called that?
No.
Because someone else was called the Swedish Angel. He just added super on.
And it's like the Super Mario Bros.
Yeah. But yeah, so we see Bela Lugosi, the original Dracula, standing outside his house after the death of his wife. And then we have Criswell loudly narrating over the top of this, what's supposed to be quite a sad scene.
Very moving and tragic scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he smells a flower.
Yeah.
And then he walks off set.
And immediately screams and dies.
Yeah, like literally you can see the edge of his cape before the car hits him.
Like, just the direction that he is walking, he is still very much on his front garden. He leaves the scene and screams his heart out. It's like he's trodden on a small stone or something.
Do you want to know how little effort Ed Wood actually put into Bela Lugosi's character?
Yeah, please do.
In the script,
Yeah.
he is simply called the Dracula Man. That's his name.
Once again, makes absolutely perfect sense.
Yeah, but interestingly, so Bela Lugosi filmed 2 scenes for this film.
Yeah.
You've probably noticed them, I feel,
I know
because
the ones that you're going to
they
reference,
get shown about, 5 times, 6 times?
There's one particular scene I noted down as occurring 5 times throughout the film, which is where he walks out of the woods in proper Dracula fashion,
Yeah.
looks towards the camera and then pulls his arm up over his face and then storms away back into the woods again.
Yeah. So the reason there's only 2 scenes of him is because he actually died after filming them, which is sad, admittedly.
Yeah, admittedly, yeah.
But do you know the great thing? The person they got to replace him
Okay.
was a guy called Tom Mason,
Okay.
who was his wife's chiropractor. He just got a chiropractor.
He was a bit strapped for time by the sounds of it, and so he just grabbed a chiropractor and gave him a cape.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I tell you what, I couldn't see the difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's such an effective actor, and he turned into Lugosi.
Well, he clearly wasn't a much younger person who was just raising his cape up above his face.
I don't know why did he just recast the role? Is that solely because of needing the star power?
He wanted the star power.
Just
yeah.
the star power.
Yeah, the 2 major stars in this one were Bela Lugosi
Yeah.
and Vampira. She was the very skinny lady
incredibly skinny lady who literally did nothing.
throughout the entire film.
So the 2 star power characters are essentially there for that one
Yeah,
purpose,
yeah.
serve nothing to the story whatsoever.
Yeah. In one thing I will say, in Vampira's defence, and Tor Johnson's, I did think they looked creepy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Tor Johnson, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you know the great thing about Vampira?
You're going to tell me.
I obviously am.
Obviously, yeah.
So she used to just get up into the makeup at home and then take the bus into set.
That would be such an amazing sight
Yeah.
to see going into. I imagine your morning commute and you're sitting next to Vampira on the bus, like completely dressed up like that. I think you'd be questioning your reality at that point and might have to just go back home for a rest.
Yeah. But basically the whole thing was she gets dressed up, she goes in, she walks slowly, and then goes home.
He walks around in front of us. What a fantastic acting job.
Okay, so next scene, I film. So we've had him smelling the rose and walking off. We then go to the cockpit of a plane,
Yeah.
where we have our hero, Jeff Trent,
Oh, Jeff.
who is played by Gregory Walcott. He's one of the pilots, and then there's another guy over there who we won't name.
Yeah.
The thing I found out about this while I was researching it.
Yeah. Go.
You know how bad the cockpit looks?
So the cockpit was the most minimalist cockpit ever. I don't know what year they're living in, but there's literally they don't even need to fly the plane. It's almost like just perfectly autopilot because they just sit in chairs.
Yeah.
Like deck chairs in the middle of a small room.
But they have the shower curtain at the back, the very obvious shower curtain. Something I didn't realise is in the spaceship later on in the film, they have the same shower
No
curtain.
way, is that the same shower?
And they did that to cut costs. So, I'm sure, like, even in 1950s, a shower curtain can't have cost that much.
What were they removing? Like, I don't know what the prices in America were at the time, but if it was equivalent here, that was like £1.
Shocking. The inflation rate on shower curtains was just ridiculous.
I know, it's like the things, there's things going up, the cost, like gold's going up, diamonds, shower curtains.
Yeah.
How do they cope in a modern world?
I don't know. It's we've got it lucky, Yeah. And then what we see, after some stilted conversation and flirting with the stewardess, I believe it was, you see a flash of light.
Yeah.
And then they look out of the window and there's a flying saucer.
Oh my God. It was so scary.
Yeah, which originally I thought was a hubcap for a car.
And was it a hubcap for a car?
Actually, well, I don't know because I'm only getting this from IMDb. But apparently it was actually a toy UFO.
Oh, good.
So, it's way better than that.
Yeah, that's true. At least it's slightly authentic, but clearly they're trying to cut the costs.
Yeah. And so that's sort of, unless you've got anything else you want to say about that scene.
Well, I just think that the way that they just kind of sit in the chairs with like their hands on their knees is just absolutely amazing. It's like they're just going, right, just sit here and we've got your lines in front of you. Please just read them off the board and we'll carry on with filming. It was, I genuinely was kind of sitting there with my mouth agape watching it. It was just an amazingly cheap set piece.
Do you know the great thing about Gregory Walcott, the main character? He said that the script was the worst script he'd ever read. So presumably he then just went ahead with it anyway.
Well, why not?
And
it's a fat page.
The great thing is that his last ever film role was actually in the biography of this film done by Tim Burton.
Right.
So he just sort of never escaped this film, really.
It became like his legacy.
Yeah.
I swear that like terrible movies, terribly good movies like this one, or goodly terrible, whatever the terminology is.
So bad it's good.
Yeah, that's the one. And it just seemed to kind of people just are connected to them just permanently for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
For instance.
Yeah, it's a room, yeah.
Once you start in a film with that much cultural significance, you can never leave it.
One of the things I quite like is the makeup artist for this film actually refused to have his name associated with it. He doesn't appear in the credits.
The makeup.
Yeah, and all of like the credit goes to his assistant. So there were people actively trying to get their name taken off of this film.
Wow, okay, that's a new level.
I mean,
it's pretty amazing.
One thing we did notice when watching through, I feel, was the amount of people when they were leaving the scene who were you could see rolling their eyes before they left set.
They clearly had enough that day when they were leaving the set.
Was like the woman sort of alien, where she see her when she leaves and she goes, "Oh yeah."
There's one of the most fed up actresses.
Yeah. She knew this wasn't high art.
No, not at all. She's like, "Oh, thank God, I've got my paycheck for the day. I can go home."
Yeah. I feel the next scene that might be worth talking about is they go through the aliens going around the world, and you see newspaper reels and things like that. And then you have the US government going, right, we need to cover this up, even though everyone's seen it.
Yeah.
And then you see basically what is stock footage of people shooting up and then, flying saucers with things bouncing off of them.
Yep. Which goes on far, far longer than it really needs to.
Yeah.
And I love the contrast between the clear stock footage that he's taken from probably like
World War II, something like
Korea or something, and then has the general just standing on a blank backdrop going, oh wow. We don't seem to be doing anything to these flying saucers.
No. And then the guy comes up going, this was just a training exercise.
He comes over with the radios like, I say, I don't believe in flying saucers. This is just a training exercise, despite the fact that they've literally launched half of the US arsenal of rockets up at them.
It's like literally 1950s as well. How is he expecting these weird things to be hovering in the sky?
No, it's not real.
No, of course not. Yeah. So the next scene that I feel is probably worth talking about is when the film first introduces Detective Clem.
Oh, I love him. Detective Clay. Yes.
So yeah, played by the person we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
Tor Johnson, the super Swedish angel, the professional wrestler.
Yeah.
And, well, his dialogue and his acting is interesting.
Yeah, interesting is the word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think my favourite part is when, I can't remember the name, the other detective
Yeah.
says, make sure you got your flashlight. And he just goes, now, I'm a big boy, Johnny. It's Johnny.
Big boy, Johnny. Oh, that was that was fantastic.
Yeah. And then,
Well, it's the fact that he's clearly, the way that he's kind of saying the lines, he's clearly reading them off something. But obviously,
yeah.
obviously he's just getting the pronunciation wrong because he's reading.
Just off screen, you can see probably Edward standing.
Yeah, it's probably that. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
It's surprised you don't actually just see him like poking out the side of the screen or something, holding the lines. Yeah.
But then we have this scene where he walks through the mist into the graveyard.
Yeah.
He's got his gun out. And then we see Bela Lugosi on one side, Vampira on the other, as they slowly get closer to him. Very, very slowly.
No man in history has been given more time to react to a situation than he has then. And what does he do? What does he choose to do?
He stands there and shoots one way
Yeah.
and shoots the other. When that doesn't work, he comes up with this ingenious plan, right?
Yeah.
He shoots that way and he shoots that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he stands.
In his blind panic, he shoots all the bullets in his revolver
Yeah.
and stops moving.
Yes, I think it's... You know, the thing I quite like? I like the fact that here you have Bela Lugosi coming out of his crypt
Yeah.
when his wife's just buried in a grave to the side.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and that crypt just looks like a garden shed.
Yeah.
Put up.
What was it like earlier on in the film where they have his funeral and the woman comes out and goes, why was he buried in a crypt?
Oh, yeah.
And then his wife wasn't, and the guy just goes, family tradition.
This is perfect storytelling there. Yeah, what a great way to kind of just write that in.
Yeah,
this is why we've decided to use this for the guy rather than the yeah.
But then when he dies, we immediately have the scene where the other detective and a few other policemen go into the cemetery and they find his body. And Johnson, the other detective, he's constantly like adjusting his hat and scratching himself with the barrel of his gun.
He comes in all alone with his pistol after hearing the death of his like colleague and friend, and immediately sees him and goes, it basically the equivalent of a bother. That's a shame. Isn't it?
It's a real shame.
And then, as you just said, proceeds to scratch every itch on his body with the barrel of his gun.
Do you know the great thing though about Johnson?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's scratching himself.
Yeah.
He was doing that deliberately to see if Ed Wood would actually spot it, and Ed Wood just never did.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
He clearly, it just didn't even occur to him what he was doing was not a good idea. Essentially.
Yeah.
So he was doing that to basically what? Just wind up the director, or was he actually had an ulterior motive to it?
I think he was just vaguely aware that this film was pretty bad, and he just wanted to see if they would spot it. Having fun on set, let's call it.
Yeah, it's like that is basically borderline a spoof movie, and if anything, because he's deliberately done that in order to kind of, see if the director would catch it.
Yeah,
it feels like a spoof where he's just there like scratching every part of his body with the revolver.
Basically, you could just tell that no one in this film thought it was good.
No,
they all knew they were destroying their careers. Or something like that.
Is either destroying their careers or getting the worst non-start of a career ever.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we move on to the spaceship next, or did you want to talk about any other scenes?
Oh no, we can go on to the spaceship next.
Okay.
The spaceship is another masterful piece of cinema.
So, of course, you get the toy flying saucers landing in the bigger flying saucer that looks suspiciously like a big nipple.
Yeah, big.
Yep. And yeah, so.
Yeah, well, once again, you can see the wonderful budget that they had.
Yeah.
And as you said, was this the scene where they reused the curtain?
All of the scenes in the spaceship, yeah.
All just
yes, this one, yeah, all the same curtain.
And I love the fact that they kind of come on to explain, that they've gone to see the Earthlings, and then they go to explain their plan, which is Plan 9, which I'm still, after watching it and kind of going over it a few times in my head, I still don't understand how that was the plan that they came to in their situation.
Look, it's perfectly simple, Ollie, okay?
Yes.
Right. They want to raise 3 members of the dead
Yep.
to take over the world.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine that if this ever had any kind of budget, the equivalent of an Avatar movie to there, they might have had a bit more than just 3 people.
Well, it is often actually a case with Edward where he often had bigger plans than he had the budget for.
So his ambition was truly spectacular.
Yeah, he was.
Unfortunately, the powers that be prevented him from truly reaching those aspirations.
He was an interesting guy actually. Like, this is going to come a little bit out of nowhere, I feel, but like so.
Go ahead.
Right, he served in World War II, as many did, but he was more scared of being caught, like of getting injured than killed.
Okay.
Because throughout World War II, he was wearing a bra and panties, a very pink pair.
Okay.
Because he was actually a cross-dresser. And actually, he made he got another film financed that he made.
Yeah.
Which was basically him walking around in a dress for the entire film with Bela Lugosi narrating. And
So Bela Lugosi's collaborated with him before then.
many times.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Glenn or Glendale's the name of the film, by the way.
Yeah.
And weirdly, it's actually considered to be one of the first films that's like pro sort of like cross-dressing.
Interesting.
So in a way, like at least he had good intentions.
Yeah, he guess, he sort of pioneered, a specific aspect of society that's really big. It's just, as you said, his aspirations were far beyond his actual ability.
I actually tried to watch Glenn or Glenda once, but I watched it in a way you're not really supposed to on my own. And I didn't get 20 minutes in. I had to stop.
Yeah.
But the great thing about it is Bela Lugosi, he's narrating it. He says nothing. Like, literally, his narration is pointless.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the way that he narrates things is just totally...
No, the lines he's given to read have nothing to do with anything. It's just him mumbling, basically, for an hour and a half.
So they could have given him, like, the McDonald's menu to read off and it would have the same impact.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. Right. Then we move on to our hero, Jeff Trent. He's sitting wistfully in a chair with his wife right there. And, well, she seems concerned about him because he's not with it,
Yeah, he's clearly very distressed about what he's seen.
And she goes,
Journey of his.
and she goes, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "I saw a saucer." And she goes, "A saucer? You mean from like up there?"
Yeah.
And he basically starts talking about how he landed and was sworn to secrecy by the US government.
US government came. I wish I could tell someone about it, but I've been sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I'm going to spill the beans anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And then as they're talking, and then he starts talking about the graveyard and how there's something going on over there. And then sort of almost to prove his point about the aliens, we just sort of see one
Yep.
fly over.
Yeah. And like blast them flying off of their chair
Yeah.
onto the ground, which is such a wonderfully done scene because it's very clearly they've just gone, oh no.
I love the way the wife falls over while looking bored.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the most bored, uneventful fall ever. And then when she lands on the floor, she's like knocked out from what is essentially someone just sitting down from a chair onto the ground.
And then basically we cut forward a little bit and he's sort of saying how he wants her to stay in the house because he's got to go back
Yeah.
to go back on the plane.
And I love the fact that they just had a very blatant interaction with a UFO and he's totally fine to go and do his normal plane job. And it's like, yes, wifey, don't worry about the graveyard.
Yeah.
There's obviously got something going on. And the UFOs that have been flying around. I'm going to go do my job now.
Yes.
I'm going to leave you in the home all by yourself.
But make sure you lock the door. And I'll be back on Thursday, but don't leave.
Don't leave.
Don't leave, okay?
I'm not going until you lock yourself inside.
Yeah.
She says, oh, okay. You're not allowed to, not going to see you until Thursday. So I love the fact that she's going to be stuck in that house.
Yeah, yeah.
What, like 3 days, I think it is. She's not allowed to leave.
Yeah. And then, well, we skip to one of the two scenes we see of Bela Lugosi quite a lot. Him running through the graveyard. Was it 5 times, did you say?
Yeah, this is one of the 5 times that he appears where he comes out of the woodland area. But I think on this time, he doesn't like to run back into the woods.
No.
He stops just short of that. And then it cuts to the scene of, as you called it, the chiropractor Dracula.
Yes, yes.
Like coming up to the house, cowl over his face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I quite like about Bela Lugosi's scene when he's running through the graveyard is he looks like he's smiling a little bit.
Yeah.
He looks quite happy.
He's clearly having a really good time.
Yeah, the great thing about that scene is Edward actually had no he didn't know what he was going to use the scene for. He just filmed some scenes. So all the scenes of him, he didn't know what he was going to use them
He's
for.
literally created a stock footage.
Yeah, he literally,
Yeah, he's just created stock
Yeah.
footage.
But yeah, so then he walks slowly towards the bed with his little cloak or towel over his face.
The Dracula.
Yep. And she just gets up, stares at him, and then runs around and out.
Oh, yeah. The super effective zombie that he is.
Yeah. And, you know, like, so you know things are going, you know there's aliens around.
Yeah.
There's all really being expressed, there's suspicion of the graveyard. So where do you think she ran to?
Oh, I reckon she ran to the police station.
No.
Ran to her neighbours, or she went to defend herself or lock herself somewhere safe. That's what I think she did.
No, I think she ran through the graveyard, Oliver.
Oh, I think that she's... that's the last place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until she runs into the other two that are also in the graveyard.
Yeah, well, it's Bela Lugosi again, isn't it? And Vampira, and they're just kind of somehow always behind her, despite walking really slowly.
Yeah, that's why walking very, very slowly. Like it's like she does her run and then has to take a breather for a bit, and then it gives them time to catch up, and then she goes, "Oh, they're here now."
Yeah.
Carry on running. Yeah.
And then she arrives at the side of the road, and because this is a 1950s film, what do you think she does?
Oh, does she do what every woman does? Is that when they experience moments of stress?
Oh, she's so emotional, and raises her hand up here and falls backwards.
But what I think was so amazing about those scenes in particular is the fact that you've obviously got the cut between her on the side of the road being rescued and then the graveyard.
Yeah.
And what's very obvious about that is that they're different, completely separate times of the day, aren't they? Which is absolutely pretty. Like, the graveyard shift is clearly filmed at night or inside of a ship.
Yeah.
I don't know which one. And this is very clearly filmed on the side of a road, probably like 1 PM. And even though it's in black and white, that is so obvious that they're shifting between the two.
And then it cuts to Tor Johnson on one side, Vampira on the other.
Yep.
But the thing is, I don't feel there was actually any stock footage here. It was just filmed at different times of the day. It was quite an easy thing to get around.
And it's very, very clearly there's not stock footage used. They've filmed it and they've put no thought into the fact that the time of day needs to be taken into account for these things. And I mean, I don't watch many black and white movies, so maybe they just thought, oh, it's not going to show up in black and white.
Maybe. But weirdly, the sky white, the sky black, you can sort of tell the difference.
Very peculiar.
Right, we then go to a scene where we have Colonel Edwards, the person we saw earlier trying to blow up the UFOs,
Yeah.
and he's just meeting with his captain, and the captain basically says, so what do you know about UFOs?
Yeah.
And Colonel Edwards goes, may I speak freely, Captain? And the captain essentially says that he will be court-martialed if he admits that he believes in UFOs.
Because he says that I believe what I saw was real, that I saw UFOs. And he says, you know, the official line of the government is that UFOs aren't real. He says, well, sir, what I saw was definitely real. You know, you'll be court-martialed, Colonel, if you don't change your mind. And he essentially, regardless of the dialogue, what he essentially says is that, well, I'm not changing my mind.
Yeah.
And the general just goes, well, okay then.
Yeah.
That's basically the gist of that conversation.
And then from that point forward, he's one of the main characters of the film.
It's like the general just went, okay, this guy clearly isn't going to change his mind. He's the guy for us because he's so like dogmatic.
Yes. He's too stubborn to be court-martialed.
So they give him the mission of going to the town where the UFOs have been landing to work out what's going on in the graveyard. One soldier has to go to this cemetery in a random town in the United States to work out what's going on.
Yeah.
The US Army is sending one soldier to work out what a potential alien invasion is doing.
Well, considering, like the fate of the world hangs on this, neither the aliens nor the humans seem to care that much.
No, particularly. No.
No, yeah. After this scene, we go back to the main spaceship. Yeah, where we have the shower curtain. And basically, they lay out their plan. And they say that basically the fate of the universe is...
The fate of the universe is at stake. Therefore, your plan must succeed in defeating the humanity and taking over planet Earth. And then in all of their logic of understanding the seriousness of the situation, they go, oh, by the way, we're only giving you one ship.
Yeah,
You've got more important things to deal with here. The fate of existence is at stake, but you can use one ship. It's fine. That's absolutely fine. You guys can do it.
I love.
Even you.
Yeah, I love the part in this one where they have the mini ray gun things and they lead toward Detective Clay onto the scene.
Yeah.
And then he starts trying to strangle the man because, of course, the silly woman can't just say gun.
That's very silly.
Yeah, so that's fun.
That's very fun. It's a great demonstration of why their plan is not going to work.
Yeah.
And they continue with it anyway.
So, right, we now know that the fate of the universe is in their hands, which, I mean, even if they're an alien species, that must be their main priority.
Oh, yeah.
So they got one ship. They've had two taken away.
Yeah, they only need one. They're that good.
Now go back to Earth and play with your 3 dead bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
But their bodies.
But the main point of this scene, I feel, outside of that, was that they need to sacrifice the old man.
Well, so this scene's kind of set the stakes.
Yes,
Then why
yes.
this is why they are doing it.
Yeah.
And they realised that in order to make humanity realise the true power that they hold, what they're going to do is send the old chiropractor Dracula to go into one of their homes of the random dude who happened to have seen them a couple of times and die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Send Bela Lugosi's, as it were. So yeah, we then go back down to Earth, and we have Colonel Edwards.
Yeah. Turned up at the pilot
and he's with Jeff Trent and his wife.
Yeah.
And they're sort of all talking when suddenly Bela Lugosi starts approaching like this.
Yeah.
I say like this, you can't see, raising his his cape.
He's got his cowl over his face.
Yeah.
True vampire that he is.
And we have that one, there's one particular police officer who looks like
Detective Boyle from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes. And
he's an ageless actor, that man.
he's kind of like, I mean, I'm not going to say Detective Boyle's useless because he's not, but this policeman definitely is.
He might be the most hopeless policeman ever put to screen. He's absolutely useless in every way.
But yeah, so basically he just slowly backs away, shooting him, and then, well, what's it like? He essentially just
He kind of like pats him on the shoulder.
he falls down.
Like karate chops in, and he just falls to the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then his next step then is to fall to the floor himself and turn into a skeleton.
Yes, yeah, because a ray's gone through to hit him.
They've gone through him and turned him into a skeleton. And I love the fact that I think they basically just go, whoa, where did he go?
Yeah.
It wasn't like that before. Well, you literally just saw it happen in front of you.
So the aliens do this to show their power and to show, like, what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, does that do that in any way?
No, all it's essentially done is someone's fallen over and died in front of humans.
If anything, to the humans, it's raised more questions. I feel.
Yeah, that's essentially what it does to them, doesn't it? But I just love the logic that an alien civilization decided the best way they can intimidate humans is to kill one of their own dudes in front of them.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense.
Right. We then go to the scene where basically they find the spaceship. So this is quite a long-ish scene.
Yeah.
And it starts at the police car, where you have Trent, Jeff Trent.
We've got our Jeff Trent.
Edwards.
Our Colonel.
Yeah, Colonel Edwards.
Got Mrs. Trent.
Mrs. Trent, who I should know the name of.
Yeah, and the one police officer.
Yeah, the Detective Boyle. Yeah.
So we've got Detective Doyle and one extra police officer, and this is the 5 people who are there to save humanity.
But then they go, right, your wife needs to stay here, and she goes, I'm not staying here, I'm coming with you.
And then they essentially go, no, you're not just staying with the car. Okay, I'll stay with the car.
Yeah. And they use the line, modern woman.
Oh, modest. So we're going to say she stays with Boyle Cop.
Yeah.
And who is obviously her protection, whilst the other 3 go off to try and find the alien spaceship.
Yeah.
So they obviously have gone off, haven't they?
Yeah. And, essentially they see this big glowing thing in the sky, which is because the aliens want them to come towards them. They want to be discovered at this point.
Yeah, they're trying to announce themselves to the world.
And when they arrive, he kind of like wraps his gun on the metal and he goes, doing, doing. And he goes, that's like no metal I've ever heard before.
Yeah, because it's a shed.
Pretty much.
Basically, it's a shed.
It's not metal, yeah. Right, then we go back to the car, where we see Boyle outside the car smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
and the wife is in the car asleep. And then we see Detective Clay slowly approaching the car. Boyle's got his back to him so he can't see.
Yeah.
Boyle turns around at the last second, and essentially Detective Clay he hits him with both shoulders and he just falls over.
I love the fact that he obviously turns around to see him and makes no response, and it's only as the arms start to come down to pat him on the shoulder, he goes, ah!
Yeah, there's always
Falls to the ground.
There's always that slight delay of you could just get away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't needed for the scene.
In every situation where there's adversity, they could get away at any moment.
Yeah,
They choose not to. They literally just stand there going, I don't know what to do. Everything is so scary.
And so Detective Clay then picks up the woman and start taking her back to the spaceship.
No, because when she suddenly sees what's happened, she sees the horror of it.
Oh, she does,
faints
right.
again.
Yes, she does faint again, yeah.
Yes, because as a woman of the 50s, this is what all women do.
Yes.
Oh no, adversity. I must faint.
Right, and then we go back to the spaceship where the door opens for them.
Yes.
But yeah, so they walk into the shed, or the alien spaceship as it's supposed to be. And that's when the aliens and the humans meet for the first time. Really.
First time. The first interaction between an extraterrestrial man, one small step for man.
And shoot the alien in the face.
If only.
Yes,
Would have made the film shorter. That made probably more logical sense.
Yes. So basically, in this scene, you have the three humans come into the spaceship and they point their guns at the two aliens.
Yes, Eros and the other one that I don't know the name.
I don't know if she's ever given a name, to be honest.
We'll call it Alien 2.
Alien 2.
Yes.
Female alien.
Female alien.
Unnamed female alien. Who just happens to be one of the main aliens.
Yeah.
And basically, this is a scene where you find out exactly why the aliens are trying to stop humanity and destroy humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, they talk about the evolution of sort of like human technology and how we started off with a firecracker.
Humans invented the firecracker.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they invented the hand grenade.
And grenade.
Which could kill several people.
And then the bomb.
And then the bomb. And then a bigger bomb.
You could hurt many people all at once. And then the atom bomb. Split the atom.
Yeah. And then the hydrogen bomb, which the very air would explode itself.
There is only one place left to
There is
go.
only one bomb left.
The solar, was it the
Solar and ice.
solar and night? It's a hard word to say.
Yeah. It's such because obviously that's not mentioned at all any other time.
No,
film.
no.
So it feels like they filmed up to that point and gone, well, what are we going to call this?
Yeah.
We have to come up with something to make it sound like an
Yeah.
world. They've gone, I don't know, stars blowing up, so
basically the idea is that we're going to split the actual sunlight or the particles of sunlight.
Actually, because he goes on to explain as to why.
He explains several times.
Yeah, so he goes on to explain why this is why they're trying to do what they're doing, to try and stop humanity from developing this bomb that's going to destroy the universe. And then the guys proceed to do what is basically a Zoolander moment, where they go, but why are you doing this? Where he proceeds to explain it a second time, where he starts talking about rays of light, and how if you detonate it, it'll go up the ray of light and go around the sun, and the sun will explode, and the whole universe will explode from there.
The thing this film doesn't quite get, I feel, is that there is more than one sun in the universe. Yeah. You might destroy a galaxy, potentially, maybe, but not a universe.
But it's the last bomb anyone could ever make, the solar night.
And you, with your stupid minds, use it.
You with your stupid look, because one of the men who is in the room goes, "But we'll be a more powerful nation than ever." You see, it's your stupid minds, stupid.
And then you have the great scene where we'll call her female alien jumps in to defend him and goes, "Look, he's right, you see," to the other alien. And then what does
she's essentially just going, we're trying to save the universe. This has to be done in order for anyone to continue living in this world. And then in her attempts to defend Eros, who's clearly her superior, being very passionate-ish about how they're trying to save the universe, he storms up to her and goes, "That's enough!
step back.
just like throws her to one side because a woman can't. A woman doesn't lie. This is terrible. Women can't speak for me, and just pushes her to one side, which is brilliant.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
So this is where obviously they're trying to threaten the aliens, aren't they? So he needs to reveal his trump card.
Yeah.
At this point, so he says about how the other guests are going to be arriving shortly. By which he means Mr. Pilot Man's wife is soon to be here. And in his rage and his anger, rather than shooting the alien, he shoots the control box next to him.
I was merely going to turn on the televisor.
The televisor, yes, the televisor.
And yeah, so he turns on the televisor, which is a television.
Yes.
And we just see Detective Clay, so Tor Johnson, carrying Mrs. Trent towards the ship. And then he just kind of stops.
Yeah.
For ages.
Just standing there, holding her. Yeah. So, it's in this moment that obviously, what's our hero going to do now? They've got his wife captive. What could possibly happen now? And this is where the true hero
Yes.
who is Officer Boyle.
Yeah. He wakes up by
Who's woken up, from his injuries from the car, being lightly brushed on the shoulders, proceeds to go, storm his way towards the wrestler.
Yes.
And then, despite the fact having laid several bullets into him to try and stop him in the past, goes, I know what will stop him.
Yeah.
A stick.
Yeah, and so he goes up behind Detective Clay and just hits him with a small stick, and he essentially collapses. I'm guessing he was knocked out.
Yeah, collapses to the floor in true pain and agony.
And essentially this just leads to chaos because then a fight breaks out in the ship. But do you know what I quite like about this scene? Mm-hmm. So, you've got Jeff Trent and the alien, they start fighting.
Yeah.
The alien is the one tearing up the ship.
Yeah. And Jeff Trent is obviously trying to fight the alien off, and in order to stop it, the alien is ripping parts of his ship off of the table to try and hit him with it.
Yeah. And then smoke starts going up.
Yeah.
They start trying to set off on the ship.
Yeah, because trying to we're setting off on the ship because female alien.
Yeah.
Obviously, she runs to a control panel which is next to the door and starts to turn on the power of the ship to fly away and close the doors. So rather than go to stop her, despite the fact she's right there, they go, "This ship's about to take off. We need to get off here now, quickly."
Yeah. And so they get off the ship. Humanity wins, I guess.
Yeah, because then the ship kind of takes off, and because of all the damage that Eros has done to the ship, it just explodes in the sky.
And you see what is it like? It's basically the ship going up, and it's always just got a really candle-like flame coming off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very clearly, they've got one of the toys, and they just put some petrol on it, set it on fire. Yeah. That's a reasonable special effect.
The thing I love about this, so humans are going to destroy the universe. So this isn't really a happy ending.
No.
And also, the aliens could just send down more ships.
Yeah, because we've clearly seen that they've got more than one ship.
Yeah.
They've got at least 2 other ones in there, plus the giant mothership.
The aliens went, well, we sent one ship down, we tried.
It's a proper, well, we tried moment.
Yeah.
And then humanity's, apparently, according to this film, go on to develop the Solar Night.
Yes.
And destroy the entire universe. So nothing really gets resolved in any way.
Yeah. And then they turn around and you see the skeleton of Tor Johnson just lying on the ground.
Yeah, Tor's ginormous skeleton.
Yeah.
They're like, look!
And then they just talk about how Vampira, another ghoul, is out there, probably looking very similar.
Yeah, because they just go, wait, there's another ghoul lying about, and my bet is she looks a lot like him.
Yeah.
So, once again, this cements the fact that Vampira is literally there to serve no purpose whatsoever to the film. She does not even appear in the last scene at all.
She's there for name value alone, and actually one of her conditions for being in the film was that she didn't have any dialogue whatsoever.
Really? Is that one that she stipulated?
Yeah, that was in her stipulation. She couldn't have dialogue.
Oh my god, that's brilliant. So she just flat out refused to talk at all during the film.
Which is probably why it starts immediately at her funeral, to be fair.
So she's just dead straight away.
Yeah, and then the screen fades and we go to Criswell as he does his closing monologue.
Yep.
And, well, he talks about how,
So you must, you must fence that you must have sworn to secrecy. For did they really happen? Says, oh God, I wish they never did happen. But
Yeah.
no, I have sat through and watched this film now.
yeah. And you never know if you're walking down a dark street, that person you pass, he may have been from outer space.
May have been from outer space. Yeah, and then it's like, God
help us.
Yeah, it's the future.
Yes. And then the end appears on the screen as the
true 1950 style film.
very 1950s wavery music plays. And there you have it. One of the greatest / worst films ever made.
Yeah.
And Ollie, right, normally with these films, when they're at this level, I normally rate them both on a technical level and an entertainment value.
Okay.
So I think, what do you think? In terms of actual, like, as a decent film, what would you say?
I saw it. Okay, so if you're doing it on a technical level, what's rating scales do you normally?
I normally do 1 to 10.
Do you normally do 1 to 10?
I'd say this is a 0.
So I'm going to say you need to create a new. I don't know if you can go into minus numbers because I mean I've watched films and that is probably one of the worst movies ever created by human beings.
Yeah. Well, when you have to cut costs by moving a shower curtain.
I know. Like is that imagine the amount of money they would have saved if they just didn't film the film,
I know, right?
and the amount of sanity they would have saved humanity as well.
Okay, and on an entertainment value, more importantly, how much did you enjoy this film?
Oh, I think it's one of those films that you absolutely need to watch with a group.
Oh, absolutely. Like you say, it's The Room. It's the Room from the 50s.
It's essentially like The Room from the 50s, and it would take another like 50, 60 years before a film of that caliber would come out again.
Yes,
The Room.
Yeah.
No, it's a very, very funny film to watch just because of how atrocious it is. And I think that there's an appeal to these kind of films.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, actually, interestingly, this film was relatively unknown for a very long time until 1980, when it was actually voted the worst film ever in the Turkey Awards book. And it was only after that it started to get a bit of a cult following.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Well, you definitely, I can imagine the cult following behind this film because I'd imagine, like, from that point, I would agree, it's probably one of the worst movies ever invented by man.
It's spectacularly bad.
It's incredibly bad.
It's one of those ones where you're not going to believe this, but we've missed out a lot, to be honest. And it's just because you wouldn't actually be able to fit it all in an episode, I don't think.
No, essentially, like, there's not a single moment in any of the scenes that occur that doesn't have a problem with it.
No.
In some way. Like, every single scene, every line of dialogue, everything that happens in the film, there's no real logic behind any of it whatsoever.
No, yeah.
Which is why it is so goddamn entertaining to watch. And I do feel it's the kind of film that you could easily watch several times and still get enjoyment out of it.
Oh, yeah, it's very much... It's sort of like an opposite Fight Club, where every time you watch Fight Club, you see something new, you're like, oh, wow, that's ingenious. Oh, wow, they filmed it. I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to ruin parts of that film because it's amazing. But this is the opposite of that, where you just see another thing wrong with it every time you watch.
Oh, no, yeah. There's like a new thing coming in there, and similar to The Room, how exactly the same with that. You'll point out new things every time you watch it. You'll do exactly the same with this. And I imagine if we sat down and watched it again, we'd see even more incredibly weird stuff occurring in there.
Right, well, I think that about wraps up the episode. So thank you very much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was very entertaining watching that film.
Yep.
I'm going to go wash my eyes out with bleach.
Good.
Doing so.
And I'm going to go eat hot dogs.
Fantastic.
Okay, and thank you all very much for listening. And please join me Monday when we shall be looking at Tale of the Mummy, starring the excellent Christopher Lee. See you then.